Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're immersing ourselves in a case that is, without question, every person's worst fear.
The nightmare of a child vanishing.
Exactly. And this is a story set in what you'd think is a peaceful landscape, rural Iowa. Specifically, the small, quiet town of Willow Creek. And on one scorching August morning, all these layers of silence, hidden family trauma, and just devastating secrets begin to get peeled back.
It's an investigation that, started externally, right? The search for two missing kids. But it turned inward so fast.
So fast.
It forced the town, and especially these two families, to confront decades of unresolved pain. We are really going to be dissecting the events in Willow Creek, where the heat of that summer just seemed to amplify the pressure on everyone.
So let's anchor ourselves to that moment. It's a Thursday morning, suffocatingly hot, and the time they think the girls disappeared is just incredibly early.
Something like 4:30 a.m.
Possibly around 4:30 a.m. The missing children are 7-year-old Callie Clark and her best friend, Petra Gregory. But the search for Callie is, from the very beginning, complicated by her unique history.
That's right. Callie Clark is introduced in the sources as a really exceptional child. She's 7, but she reads way above her grade level.
Slightly intelligent.
Very. Yet she carries this profound burden. Selective mutism. She hasn't said a single word since she was 4 years old, which, makes any standard investigative questioning just impossible.
And that intelligence is coupled with this habit. She's known to wander, which is terrifying when you consider her favorite place.
The Willow Creek Woods.
Yeah, and we're not talking about a small park. This is a massive, sprawling area, over 14,000 acres of dense, unmaintained forest that stretches across 2 counties.
The scale is just overwhelming. I mean, trying to find a child in that kind of terrain is exponentially more difficult.
And she didn't disappear alone. She vanished with Petra Gregory.
Her kindred spirit, as Callie's mother and Antonia called her.
That relationship between the two girls is so fascinating because it just completely defies how we think about communication.
It really does. Petra is the verbal half of the pair. But she has this almost like intuitive ability to interpret Callie's silence.
It's incredible.
The sources really highlight how deep this nonverbal communication went. I mean, Petra could literally read Callie like a book. She knew these incredibly specific things, like Callie's absolute insistence on having only peanut butter on her sandwiches, no jelly.
And it was a two-way street, right? Callie supported Petra, too.
Absolutely. Callie would compensate for Petra's vulnerabilities. Like, Petra was terrified of thunderstorms, so Callie would play incredibly loud music to drown out the sound of the thunder.
So our mission today, it goes beyond just tracing the timeline of the police work. We need to unpack the crisis, for sure, but our main focus is to trace the complex, really painful history of these families that all sort of converged into this tragedy.
And we have to follow the police investigation, which was so deeply compromised by local politics, personal stakes, and understand how the silence at the core of Callie's story, this enforced silence, was just a destructive, compounding force on everyone in that town.
This is a deep dive into the true weight of silence.
It really is. It wasn't just Callie's inability to speak that mattered. It was the generational silence, the relational silence.
The secrets.
The deep-seated secrets that allowed years and years of family trauma to fester and ultimately, contribute to this devastating outcome.
Okay, so let's start unpacking this. We have to begin with the families. The Clarks and the Gregorys. They're neighbors, but their homes, their traumas, they are worlds apart.
Though both were, it seems, on the brink of collapse even before the girls went missing.
Let's start with the Clark household. It's just defined by this pervasive instability and years of emotional fallout. The mother, Antonia or Tony, she's depicted as this woman who used to be joyful, but life has just
stripped that away. The source material notes the creases of age and disappointment already on her face, even though she's still pretty young.
And she's living in this constant state of emotional whiplash. The only time the house felt safe, it seems, was when her husband, Griff, was gone.
And that's when she'd overcompensate. She'd create these elaborate fantasies for the kids, like spa nights or these wild pirate games.
A desperate attempt to bring some lightness into a really dark environment.
And at the heart of Tony's own grief and Callie's condition is a trauma that happened years before. Callie's silence began on a very specific day, a cold December day, when Callie was just 4 years old.
Right. Tony fell down the stairs while she was pregnant.
And she had a stillbirth, a baby girl they had already named Poppy. The sources even note this tragic detail that the baby had strawberry-colored hair.
It's just a shattering event on its own. It would devastate any family. But the sources are so meticulous here. They show that the mutism wasn't just a reaction to losing Poppy.
No, it was triggered by what Griff did right after.
This is the pivotal secret that Tony carries, isn't it? The thing she regrets so deeply.
It is. In the chaos right after Tony's fall, Griff, he goes over to 4-year-old Calli, and he whispers something in her ear.
And the source material is so specific about this.
For 1 full minute, 60 seconds of this private, agonizing communication. And after those 60 seconds were up, Calli never spoke another word.
What's so tragic is Tony's self-recrimination later on. She admits she was just so lost in her own pain, her own loss, that she never once asked Calli what Griff had said to her.
And that 1 minute became the silent, infected epicenter of Calli's entire life.
And we have to talk plainly about Griff. He is the source of the poison in that house.
The descriptions are harsh. An abusive alcoholic, a man who, quote, drank Bud Light for breakfast.
Right. And on that morning, he claims he's leaving for a 3-day fishing trip on the Mississippi with his friend Roger Hogan. But his presence or his absence was really the defining feature of the Clark family trauma.
And the abuse was directly connected to Calli's silence. It wasn't just a choice she made. It was enforced.
How so?
Well, this is where Ben, the 12-year-old brother, comes in. He's the family's emotional shield. He's so protective, just constantly shouldering the burden of his parents' dysfunction.
He's the one who remembers a specific incident.
A deeply disturbing one. He recalls Griff physically assaulting him. Ben, while forcing Calli to watch the whole thing. And Griff is shouting at her, "If you talk, Calli, I'll stop."
That is absolutely chilling. So Calli was taught violently that her silence literally kept her brother safe.
Precisely. For her, silence was an act of profound self-sacrifice. It was protection. And Ben understood this, so he carried the emotional and the physical weight for everyone. The Clark home was just this unstable powder keg of secrets and fear with Tony's pirate games painted over the top.
So now let's cross the yard, both literally and psychologically, to the Gregorys. Outwardly, this is a family that projects rigid order, intellectualism, but they were just as fragile.
Martin Gregory, the father, is central to that rigidity. He's an economics professor at St. Juliana's College, a man who seems, obsessed with control and discipline.
But the narrative around his origins is fascinating. He grew up a farm boy.
And he hated it. He utterly despised those roots and consciously shed that identity. He held this deep scorn for the minutiae of the farm.
He didn't just shed it, he actively worked to eradicate it. The source mentions he would correct any hint of a rural accent in his own speech. His whole life was built to achieve this perfect, ordered, intellectual life.
And that need for order bled into his personal life.
Yeah.
He met his wife Fielda pretty late. He was 42, she was just 18, working at her family's diner.
And his devotion to Petra, his only daughter, it became this intense, almost suffocating focus.
She represented the success of his project, the ordered, intellectual family life he had worked so hard to build for himself.
But even in that controlled environment, there was this hidden trauma threatening the whole foundation.
Fielda had her own struggles. Martin had found sleeping pills, and he remembered her earlier emotional outbursts, her rants about needing to have a baby.
So like Tony, Fielda had also suffered a pregnancy loss.
Yes, and this history just underscores how fragile their domestic peace really was. Petra wasn't just a daughter to Martin. She was a vital piece of the perfect life he thought he had finally achieved. His overprotectiveness is rooted in that deep fear of losing control again.
So this clash of worlds, the rigid verbal order of the Gregorys and the traumatic, enforced silence of the Clarks, it really comes to a head in the friendship between the two girls.
Martin, the professor, just could not understand it. How could his daughter be best friends with a girl who never spoke?
He literally asks the deputy, Louis, how 2 7-year-olds can have fun if one doesn't talk. You got rationalize it. It defies his entire worldview.
But Tony's explanation is the key to everything. She just says they are kindred spirits.
And the beauty of their connection is how they used nonverbal communication and these compensating vulnerabilities to build their own self-sufficient world.
Yes. Petra could read all of Calli's tiny cues, like the peanut butter. And Calli, the protector, provided the loud music and the courage when Petra was scared of storms. Their friendship wasn't built on words. It was built on mutual support and this profound emotional intuition.
Which is why their disappearance together is such an acute, unbearable pain for both families. It threatens the only genuine, healthy connection in this whole toxic ecosystem.
So the girls vanish, and the moment it's reported, the local system just snaps into chaos.
We move into this intense, short-staffed investigation, which is immediately complicated because the officer in charge, Deputy Sheriff Louis, is carrying a personal burden that is actively destroying his own life.
This is so critical.
Yeah.
Louis is navigating an immense professional challenge. Willow Creek is small. His department has 10 officers trying to cover those 14,000 acres of woods.
They're hampered from the jump.
Absolutely. But that professional stress is just dwarfed by his personal crisis.
The source material is very explicit about Louis and Antonia's history. It's not just a passing acquaintance.
No, it's a deep, unfulfilled, almost mythological high school love story. He holds this romanticized memory of her from when they were kids. He remembers the exact day he first saw her sledding, describing how he fell completely and utterly in love.
Antonia, when she was 16, wished he would stay in town instead of going off to college. This history has just been lying dormant, a powerful force in his life.
And now he's the one leading the search for her children. And his own marriage is collapsing because of it.
Right. There's this bitter public argument at the station with his wife, Christine. She sees him pouring every ounce of himself into finding Dally, and she accuses him of prioritizing Antonia's kids, the children of his old flame, over their own son, Tanner.
And the argument climaxes with her threatening to leave right then and there for Minnesota. So Louis is professionally compromised, emotionally devastated, and trying to manage this massive search while his own family falls apart.
It makes the whole investigation intensely personal, emotionally volatile. The lines of professional conduct are just completely blurred.
Meanwhile, the crisis is serious enough that it triggers the arrival of external law enforcement. Agent Fitzgerald from the DCI, the state police.
And this is where Martin Gregory's need for control immediately starts to falter.
Yes. Martin, the man who judges everyone on their professional demeanor, immediately judges Fitzgerald on his appearance. He notes his small feminine hands and his lack of, intimidating stature. It's this shallow, immediate bias that shows how Martin's need for order blinds him to actual capability.
But Fitzgerald is effective, right? He starts the uncomfortable process of broadening the suspect pool.
Absolutely. Fitzgerald is thorough. He's methodical. He recognizes that focusing only on the Clarks is a failure of basic police work. He starts compiling a list of everyone with recent contact with Petra.
So he's pulling in local college students.
Right, kids who had done odd jobs for the Gregorys, Chad Wagner, Lucky Thompson, Mariah Burton, as well as professors like Sam Garfield. The case is now expanded from a domestic drama into a full community investigation.
And then Louis, drawing on his own experience, is forced to raise the stakes dramatically by invoking a horrifying local precedent.
He has to bring up the McIntyre girl case. He reminds everyone that the battered, abused daughter was found dead in a woody area nearby a few years back.
This is the moment the theoretical possibility of a happy ending just crashes into the reality of potential violence.
It is. And for the Gregorys, who are already so fragile, this plunges Fielda into hysterics. She's just wailing in despair that her daughter might suffer the same terrible fate, being raped and murdered.
The pressure cooker is at maximum, but then it's Tony, Calli's mother, who provides this crucial character-based clue, something that instantly separates this from a simple case of a child wandering off.
She knows her daughter's habits inside and out, and she points out that Calli would never go into the woods without her shoes. Both her tattered tennis shoes and her flip-flops are still at home.
As are her cowboy boots.
Exactly. This is a vital deduction. Calli is confirmed to be wearing only a pink nightgown.
And the implication is just crystal clear. She was either taken against her will, or she left in such a state of panic that she didn't even take the few seconds required to dress.
It refutes the idea that the girls just decided on a whim to go exploring. Someone or something forced them out of that house, or they were fleeing a danger they perceived inside. This shifts the entire focus of the police toward potential foul play.
So the search continues, but now it's intensified by this realization. And this leads us to the heart-stopping climax on the bluff and the ultimate shocking revelation from Calli.
The tension finally breaks when Calli is found. She emerges from the thick brush of Bobcat Trail, running.
And her feet are just horribly cut up by jagged rocks.
Yes, the sources emphasize the state of her feet. It's this brutal physical testament to the panicked barefoot journey she made across that unforgiving terrain to get help.
And she's clutching physical evidence.
She is. She's holding Petra's silver necklace, the one with the musical note charm.
The one Louis had meticulously written down a description of.
Exactly. And she's also holding Petra's white underwear, the ones with the little yellow flowers. These symbols of childhood innocence and friendship, now tainted and serving as grim evidence of violence.
But the most significant event, the one that stops everyone in their tracks, is what happens when she finally reaches safety.
It's the breaking of the silence. After 4 years of self-imposed mutism, Calli screams. One single piercing word.
Ben.
Ben, her brother's name. A universe of meaning in a single word. He's the person she's spent half her life protecting, the person for whom she sacrificed her voice, and it's the only word she can force out in that moment of cataclysmic panic.
And that one word sets off this catastrophic chain of events, all fueled by these long-standing family assumptions.
Ben, following his sister's terrified direction, finds Petra on the bluff. She's severely injured, battered head, discolored face and neck, bruised legs. She's alive, but barely.
And this is where the Clark family's toxic history just completely warps reality.
Ben sees his father, Griff, nearby, looking ill and guilty, and he immediately assumes the worst. He believes Griff is the perpetrator.
So Ben, the eternal protector, confronts him.
He fights his father violently. It results in Ben's broken nose and other injuries. It's this primal protective response rooted in years and years of trauma. And then he sends Calli for help, telling her explicitly, "Tell him where we are."
Meanwhile, Martin Gregory, the professor who just minutes ago feared his ordered life was shattering, he hears Calli scream and he interprets Ben as confirmation that the Clark family, the source of chaos, has destroyed his daughter.
All of Martin's suppressed emotion, the farm boy shame, the grief over Fiona's losses, the fear of disorder, it just explodes. He snaps. He races back to Antonia's house, grabs his father-in-law's gun, and he is intent on delivering swift, definitive retribution by killing Griff.
At the same time, Louis and Fitzgerald are tracking Griff and Antonia through the woods.
And Antonia, spurred by all this, finally confronts Griff. She demands the truth about the origin of Calli's silence. She screams at him, releasing her own 4 years of guilt.
"It's because of you she doesn't talk. You whispered something to her."
She confesses she always thought it was her miscarriage, the death of Poppy, that caused it, but now she recognizes the true abusive source.
Griff is just overwhelmed. He denies harming Petra, but the confrontation, the accusation, the chaos, it pushes him past the breaking point, and this leads directly to the tragic confrontation with Louis.
He pulls a gun,
Presses the barrel to his own temple in a desperate suicidal act. It forces Louis to make a life-or-death decision.
and Louis, the man whose personal life is already in tatters, who feels responsible for protecting Antonia, he's forced to shoot. He kills Griff.
To prevent a suicide and neutralize what he perceives as an immediate threat.
And what makes his tragedy even more bitter is what they discover about the weapon afterwards. The gun was unloaded. It was a gesture of pure desperation, not a genuine threat to anyone else. So Louis, already devastated by the collapse of his marriage, is now forced to live with the knowledge that he took a life, sacrificing his own moral peace for a threat that was ultimately hollow.
Just the weight of that decision.
It will haunt him forever.
And it's here, amidst all this trauma and misplaced vengeance, that Calli's newly reclaimed voice, along with her brother's input, finally guides the investigators to the actual truth.
Calli's scream of Ben wasn't an accusation against him. It was a protective reflex. And with Ben's help through therapeutic storytelling, Calli manages to recall key details about the attacker.
A man she knew from Petra's house.
A man with a funny name and a dog.
And this detail connects immediately back to that expansive contact list Agent Fitzgerald had so wisely compiled.
Absolutely. The evidence points squarely to Lucky Thompson. His full name was Linton, the college student who did odd jobs for the Gregorys. Someone who was known and trusted by the family.
And there was specific corroborating physical evidence.
First, he had gone missing himself. Second, he'd been seen talking with Petra recently, showing proximity. But the most emotionally resonant piece of evidence is the fate of his dog, Sergeant.
The golden retriever.
The same dog that had been in a pretend wedding to Calli's stuffed animal. Sergeant was found dead in the woods nearby, his collar intentionally removed.
The death of that innocent dog, and the fact that Lucky Thompson is later apprehended, injured after falling down the bluff, it confirms the narrative.
It does. The attacker wasn't Griff, the obvious monster. It was someone known and trusted by the seemingly ordered Gregory family. It just shatters the idea that abuse only comes from predictable sources.
Okay, so moving into the immediate aftermath, the focus shifts entirely to survival and critical medical care. Petra is the priority.
She's airlifted immediately to Iowa City. The severity of her injuries is just. It's immense. Massive head wounds, a discolored face and neck, severely bruised legs. Martin drives Fielda to the hospital, trying to maintain some semblance of control, telling her Petra is alive, but acknowledging that she is hurt in many ways.
Back in Willow Creek, Callie is getting medical attention too. And Antonia, having just witnessed her husband's death, she makes a desperate choice to be present for her daughter.
Callie has to undergo a sexual assault exam, a rape kit. And Tony forces herself to stay in the room to watch the whole meticulous process. It's her forced moment of reckoning. She's confronting her own perceived failure, her inattentiveness to the depths of Griff's abuse that she feels led to this horrible place.
But amidst all that trauma, there is a glimmer of profound hope. It's about Callie's sudden speech.
Yes, the medical staff recognizes its significance immediately. They view the return of her speech as very good news, noting that the barrier has been forcefully broken.
And then they recommend a psychiatrist.
Dr. Kilsing, who specializes in selective mutism. Tony initially bristles at the idea, another reflection of the Clark family's reluctance to face their problems head-on. But she eventually accepts the help. She realizes she can't navigate this recovery alone, and this marks a massive turning point for the Clarks.
A turning point toward genuine healing. And that event, Callie speaking, it's the catalyst for the long road to recovery, which the sources trace over the next 6 years.
But the impact on Petra and the Gregory family, it remains devastating and permanent.
The tragedy of Petra's injuries is enduring. 6 years later, the sources confirmed she never fully recovers from that severe head injury.
She walks differently.
Yeah.
School has become an immense challenge, and the memory, the geography of Willow Creek, it's just too much for the Gregorys. They move away about 1.5 years after the incident, trying to outrun the trauma.
And it's so interesting to see how Antonia, by contrast, transforms her physical environment. It's like a symbol of rebirth.
She finally fulfills a long-ago wish, one she'd shared with Louis at the creek when they were teenagers. The family paints the peeling old White House a happy, soft yellow color.
It's a definitive rejection of the dark life she shared with Riff, a statement of intent.
But the psychological cycles of abuse and trauma, they don't just vanish with a coat of paint. Ben, the protector, now older, still carries that massive weight.
And it manifests in a very complicated relationship with his father's memory.
Ben is still characterized by this lingering guilt in that protective, rebellious sassiness. And the source material details this conflict so profoundly in his annual ritual.
On Griff's birthday.
Every year on Griff's birthday, Ben insists on visiting the grave, and he leaves a 6-pack of beer by the gravestone.
And Ben and Callie find this funny in a sick sort of way. What do you make of that? What does that reveal about his coping mechanisms 6 years on?
I think it reveals a profound complexity. He's maintaining a connection to his father's pathology, the alcoholism, the rebellion, while simultaneously mocking it. It's his way of asserting control over the very thing that controlled him. He was forced to be the protector against Chris, and now he's trying to reconcile the abused child with the young man who survived. That beer is a testament to the internal war he's still fighting.
And Callie, the central figure who regained her voice in the most traumatic way imaginable. She finds a lasting peace, not in constant conversation, but in movement and, well, a different kind of silence.
She finds a new identity. She becomes a regular kid. She focuses her energy on running track and cross country. And what she finds solace in is the very environment where verbal communication is rendered obsolete.
She loves that no one expects her to talk while running.
Exactly. Running becomes her new form of nonverbal self-expression, her new form of agency.
And she achieves this incredible intellectual and emotional freedom. She lets go of the crippling belief that it was all her fault.
She realizes the trauma was not her responsibility. She lets go of that long-held belief that she was the reason her baby sister, Poppy, died. And she achieves this powerful emotional detachment from Griff. Her final assessment is so stark and clear. I don't hate my dad. I don't miss him either.
That's not anger. It's just pure, uncomplicated emotional release.
It's self-preservation.
And her final moment of true resolution, it's found in this quiet conversation, looking back at her mutism with Mr. Wilson, her guidance counselor.
He was a source of support for her for years. She meets with him one last time in 6th grade, and she finds an old journal, a drawing where she had visually represented her voice. It's shown as musical notes flying out of a beautiful blue perfume bottle.
And Mr. Wilson, who believed in her long before she ever spoke, he just confirms the truth she now understands.
He tells her, you had it with you the entire time.
The voice wasn't lost. It wasn't destroyed. It was just bottled up, protected by the trauma, waiting for the necessary cataclysmic moment, the defense of her brother, to finally uncork it.
The self, the core identity, was always there. The healing wasn't about being given a voice, but about creating an environment both internal and external that was safe enough for her to finally use the one she already had.
This intense deep dive really demonstrates how misleading a missing persons case can be. This wasn't a random event. It was the explosion of all the pre-existing suppressed family trauma that had been building for years in Willow Creek.
That's the core takeaway. The suffering was magnified and compounded by the sheer force of silence. Calli's mutism, Antonia's silence about the abuse, Louis' silence about his enduring love for Tony, Martin's deep silence about his own past and grief. All these unspoken narratives created the conditions for this devastation.
And the resolution offers such a nuanced view of trauma recovery. Calli broke her silence to save her brother and friend, a vital life-saving purpose. Yet, 6 years later, she finds her lasting peace in an activity running where talking isn't required.
It truly forces us to question the nature of healing. We often assume the path to recovery requires speaking the truth over and over. But Calli's story suggests something different. Is true healing found in speaking the truth? Or is it in finally finding a place, a physical space, a new passion, where the immense weight of that truth doesn't need to be verbally carried anymore?
Where she can just be without having to explain or relive it? What a provocative and essential thought. The unspoken narratives we carry often weigh far more than the words we choose to say.
Indeed. We encourage you to consider the power of the unspoken narratives in your own life and how they shape your world. Thank you for joining us for this incredibly intense deep dive into the true cost of silence.
We'll see you next time.